about 8:45 and I'm exactly on time today, which is good. As we say in the program all of the time, wake up, dress up, show up on time. So you can see I got a big smile on my face. You don't need to see me. You're listening to me, but you know that I am smiling right now. You can feel from my positive energy. Now, right now, I'm talking to you, all of you, and a lot of you, most of you, are full of negative energy because you woke up in the morning, you're feeling a little bit low energy completely after Seri, and you are a little bit grumpy. Now, of course, you got to come out of that quickly and you got to get ready. You go downstairs, you meet the rest of the family, and if you're grumpy, all of your negative energy is going to transfer over to them. So, all of you, feel good. You know, you got to look good, feel good, and come downstairs. Children will be smiling. Otherwise, your grumpiness is going to be passed on to them. And then you're going to have the whole family be grumpy. So, you're listening to Zed on the Ramadan Radio 87.7 FM. You can call me on 0116-482-2086 or you can simply just WhatsApp me on 077-48-855-055. Now, a lot of you are not awake in the morning and not listening in. You probably, there's no school run because the kids are on holiday. And some of you are driving to work and you're listening in, but a lot of you can catch up on the YouTube or you can catch up on Facebook and you can send your comments in. And always remember that without you, we cannot do the Radio Ramadan. Each year, we want a lot of engagement from all of you. We want all of these young people involved. And we are striving extremely hard to get more and more and more youngsters on the table. And a lot of good ideas are coming on the table. One of the good ideas that we had was, why don't you arrange with your collaborators, your partners, to get 10 homeless, aspiring youngsters, put them back on the road and just focus on those 10 and you will see a huge difference because those 10 then will change the world. And of course, yes, great idea. So I'm going to think about that, get together with other people because none of these ideas can be done, right? So if you have any contribution to that, please come forward. It requires professional people, it requires business people to make that a reality. So any good ideas you have, please forward them to us at the radio or talk to each other and come and let's have a discussion on that. So if you need to call us on 0116-482-2086 and you can WhatsApp us on 077-48-855-055. Another comment came to me was that, yes, I agree that we should look for prevention rather than cure. Prevention is the best route, then we don't have to be focusing on cure. And of course, I did ask the question, well, if we do that, what about all the people who are in the cure industry? What will they do? And a good reply came back saying that all of them will then switch over to the prevention sector. So that's an interesting one, isn't it? So that is a lot of people. So basically what the person is saying that we should all focus on prevention, which brings me on a great response for the Green Guardians, a great response. Everybody was absolutely gobsmacked to them. But you know what my disappointment was? That the locals who live around each area, should they not be taking responsibility for their own city? And who are the people who actually create the litter? Is it the locals or is it those that come and use the shops and then they litter? So those that come and use the shops, if they're not local, they come from outside of the area who are creating all this litter. They're the ones who should be targeted. So locals will say that, well, I didn't create that litter, so I'm not going to do anything about it. And how are we going to go forward if we do not work together. We need a clean city. Now, what does it say now, Dean? Why do we do wudu 5 times a day? Why? Because sanitation is key to hygiene. Hygiene is key to good health. Good health is key to your wealth, right? If you're not healthy, you're not wealthy, as they say. So it's very important to work together on keeping the city clean. If you will have the mindset to say that it's not my problem, the council will do it, it's their job, they get paid for it, I pay rates, then that ain't going to work, because then you are relying on someone else, and you are saying that the mindset is that let everybody create litter. So we don't want that. We need to prevent. Now, these days, you can't even approach anybody who has created litter to go and say to them, don't do that, because you're going to get a slap. That is a kind of aggressive society we live in. You got to just keep your mouth to yourself. And that's not right. Back in the day, you'd walk on the street and you'd say good morning to everybody that you saw, right? Of course, I keep going on about 50 years ago, but that nobody even remembers yesterday, let alone 50 years ago. So all of you listening in, give us your thoughts on the Green Guardians, the work that they're doing, and how collectively we can support them. Because another wonderful thing I'm going to share with you is that the Green Guardians, who are they? Well, when I met the 2 girls who founded the Green Guardians, one is a teacher and one is working in a professional capacity in counseling. And the question I'm going to ask you all is, what makes people from that background give their time out with their children to come out with their litter sticks, with their bags, and go walk up and down the streets? They don't only come here on Evington Road, they are going into different areas in Spinney Hill, in Melton Road, and a few areas that they mentioned to me. And that is extremely interesting, isn't it? So what makes people like that do that? So if people in the professional sector have got that willingness to come and make a change, to make a difference, then everybody should start learning from that. That is our duty. We need to learn from each other and develop each other and go forward collectively. And if we're all doing our own thing, then we don't care attitude, nothing's going to happen, nothing's going to change. So that is what I would like to press upon all of you. If you have any thoughts on that, please give me a call on 0116 482 2086. And you can WhatsApp me on 077 48 855 055. You're listening to Z on the Rise and Shine Ramadan Radio 87.7 FM. So if you're listening in right now, then if you are in a capacity to give us a call, then share your thoughts on that Green Guardians litter campaign. Clean the city, keep the city clean, right? That's what it's all about. Of course, yesterday we had also the pleasure of meeting Yusra, who is doing the skateboard park at Saffron Lane, and she had some wonderful ideas also, and quite a good response and reaction. So skateboarding reservations were that I'm not too sure about it because I'm worried about my child getting injured. Of course, your child can get injured in any sport whatsoever. And one of the things I want you to reflect upon this is that in these environments, they do take care, and they have good systems in place, good processes in place. So do take your children out there. And the most important thing is there are 70 diversities in the city. And what she pointed out to me is that she has seen all the time, she's born in the city, she's lived there, and she's seen that we are all living in our own respective areas, and we are not leaving that comfort zone, and we have this inner racism within us that we are not then able to come out of that. We're not able to come out of that because if you go from one area to another, you're out of your comfort zone and you don't feel comfortable there. Of course, all of us have to work together to change that mindset, because all these areas should be accessible to all of us, right? And we should all enjoy these areas as much as we can, because the city belongs to the people of the city living in the city. It's not that this area belongs to them and this area belongs to them. And later on, we shall be meeting a prominent councillor in the city and an inspector from the police, and we shall be discussing these in more detail. That is a program, Let's Talk with Zed, at 6 o'clock today from 6 till 7 p.m. We shall then engage with them. And all of you right now, do tune in and then call in and talk and communicate, because you have an opportunity to connect. Because throughout the month, I have been saying that step up, because you got to start engaging with your councillors, with your MPs, and start working together, and go share with them your thoughts, what you'd like to see in the city. Otherwise, if you don't do that, then they cannot act for you. They can only act for you. They have to have something to go on the table with and discuss and make things happen. So if enough people are on board, change will happen. But if everything is done separately from across the city, then change will not happen at all. So that's why please do get to know who your councillors are, who are there in your area, who represents you, who is your MP. This is very important, because if we don't have engagement and we don't step up our involvement as citizens of the city, then nothing is going to happen. There won't be no change, and we'll have same old, same old. Now, younger people, all of you young people, please come on board, because we are extremely, extremely keen to get more and more engagement with all the younger people. So this year, we have found quite a few youngsters who have come on board, and we're working with them in the capacity of journalism and social media, many different fields of work, built to their strengths, not their weaknesses. That has been the motto. So if you meet anybody, we have strengths, we have weaknesses. So we have to work to their strengths and develop them, help them. If we have a skill set, let's share with them and let's work together and make things happen. Because if we don't work together, nothing's going to happen. So please, if you have children, let's put them in the right direction. And the other matter I want to discuss with you and remind you, we were talking about the Talent Foundation, where you are signposting young children or up to university in the right direction to provide a mentor to them, so that they can engage with them and develop their own path, journey of life in terms of education. Now, interesting point one gentleman made out to me. He says, well, we have people in career paths. They also need guidance, and they need also support and guidance. So I'm working on that now, because this is something very valid. There are many people in the career path, and this week we are focusing on EDI, equality, diversity, inclusion. And so in that respects, the whole mindsets are changing across industry, how people have to engage with a diverse community in positions of management, and also being CEOs or managing directors, whichever way you want to call it. And we have to focus on all of that. So mentorship, guidance does not go amiss anywhere. So if you have a skill set in your profession, please come forward and support others, and you will be absolutely doing them a great, great deed that they can benefit from. So here's my producer. He's doing the sign language again, and he's pointing me to the direction of the timer. So we will be shortly, very shortly, we'll be going to have a little bit of an ad break, and then we'll come back to you with a fantastic initiative that I'm going to talk to you about at 9:10. That is exactly digital. Everything is digital here now. So they're counting the minutes at the moment. Next year, they'll be counting the seconds. So that's the way we're going. So don't go away. Please come back at approximately 9:10, but 9 o'clock we'll be back with our guest. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Brothers and sisters, we are back. You're listening to Ramadan Radio on 87.7 FM. And today I have a wonderful guest with me. I'm going to allow her to introduce herself to you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. My name is Fazila. I'm the founder and director of an organisation called Connect with Law.
Connect with Law, that is extremely interesting, right? We shall be talking to Fazila today about various aspects of the legal profession, amongst other matters as well. And we should also be talking to some interesting people who are going to call us in at around 9:10. So you'll be ready for that. And Fazila, how are you this morning? How's your Ramadan going?
Alhamdulillah, it's going beautifully. Quite fast, but beautifully.
And everybody's good in the family?
Alhamdulillah, everybody's really good.
That is good, right? So time's just absolutely flown by, hasn't it?
It has indeed.
Right.
I don't know where the time has gone.
Yeah, because you don't even know which day it is, whether it's day 17 or day 16 or day 15. Our producer will always remind me in the mornings which day it is because I lose track, with them being either 16 or 17. We don't know. He'll tell me in a minute. So everything in the...
It's day 18, by the way.
It's day 18. So, Fazila, you've been following our radio this year?
I have, here and there. I'm preparing for exams, so in between I'll give myself a treat and have a listen.
Great, and you can do a catch-up as well, So, Fazila, we're going to talk a little bit about yourself, how you started your journey in wanting to become a lawyer.
Okay.
So, if you can, listeners are just waiting to hear your story.
Okay, so I'm a Yorkshire girl that moved to Leicester when I got married. I studied to become an English teacher, and for many years I taught English and maths at local schools. And through my charity work and as editor of the Evington Echo, I started drifting into thinking about the legality of things. And that's when I thought I'd go back to university and study a graduate degree in law. And that's what I did. And after that, I moved on to do an LPC, which I'm currently at the end of, at Nottingham Trent. I did my degree at University of Leicester, and I have too many part-time roles alongside that to get my legal experience, and my final exams are in May.
That's wonderful. Evington Echo is one of our local papers. Is it printed weekly or monthly?
It's bi-monthly, so every couple of months you'll get a copy through your door if you are in the jurisdiction for delivery.
Of course, yeah. It has been around for quite some time, but it is a wonderful start, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's a local volunteer-run paper, and the volunteers are incredibly dedicated, and it's fantastic. And there are people within the community, especially the elderly, that are very reliant on that paper to find out what's going on, to have contact details for people, to know activities they can get involved with at the Evington Village and beyond. So it's a really handy paper to have.
Of course, there will be a huge transition coming forward one day in the future because we're moving now totally to a digital transformation, and all these local papers, in another 5 years, they might not even be here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the things I had to tackle when I was thinking about the demographic for that paper whilst I was there. So my responsibility was to develop their social media platform, to increase their online presence, etc. And I found that quite enjoyable. And I found that people were very willing to move with the times. However, it was also very important to maintain that printed version for people who relied on it.
So I trust you will have left that in good hands.
Yeah, Helen Petman, who is a community leader and advocate.
Community champion.
She is. She's fantastic. Has carried on with that, and she's doing it beautifully.
Yeah, she has a title, what we call CDO.
Yeah.
And some years ago, she worked with us here at the radio, and she arranged some greenery here on the streets. But unfortunately, our community here, they're not ready for green. And all the greenery disappeared.
Yeah, you have to have volunteers that maintain that, and that's part of her Evington in Bloom. It's an award-winning Evington in Bloom project, and lots of people in Evington Village and beyond dedicate lots of time. For example, shopkeepers and volunteers like perhaps you and I, to maintaining the plants, and that's what it comes down to.
Right, we have a call. Assalamu alaikum. We have a call. Call in. See, technical issues. He says we have a call and the call has not come through. Hello? They're going to call back. So, right, we were talking about, sorry about the interruption, and I've got to tell my producer that the Zoom link is not connecting with the Radio Leicester. So the Zoom link they sent did not connect. So, Yasser, if you can sort that Zoom link out, please. He's working on it. So this is the Evington Echo. We are very, very happy with them. And what you talked about, the greenery, is what we need to now develop and bring it back again. So if somehow we can bring it back, we will all be better for it. That the worry is that you'll put the plants out and somebody comes, trashes them, or they throw their cigarette stubs on them, and you know how much problems we've had here with litter. And how do we change that?
I think it's difficult when it's not just a sense of maintaining plants and looking after them, but it's an exterior factor, that sort of vandalism and disrespect for what's going on. There's only so much that volunteers can do when they look after the plants, weed, etc., and you can round up green-fingered people in the community to help you do that. But there also has to be an awareness of it within the community and a respect for what's happening too, and perhaps platforms such as this could be used to do that. I don't think you can police things like that in essence.
So it is very, very difficult to change mindsets, to get people to become more aware, and we can't support each other if we have that kind of behavior, and everybody has to work together on this issue of cleanliness and so on. So if you and I and everybody else get involved, we can make a difference, can't we?
Oh, absolutely. Communities
right?
can
That's
do.
what we're here to do, make a difference.
Yep.
And we can't do that without your input, all of you listening in right now. And Fazila has done some good work there at Evington Echo. How long were you there for?
I think I was there for 3 years. 1 year, I think I was half a year as a reporter, and the remainder of my time was as editor there, which was just fantastic. It's a great community to be working within.
Great. So we'll have to, again, you'll have to engage us more with them so we can work together with them more than we have done so before. We kind of go up and down with them. You know, we work with them, then one contact that is here is no longer here, and then you lose touch with them, you know. Mm-hmm. But we will pick up again with Helen. She knows us very well. And if you can arrange all that for us, be much appreciated.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that.
So when you come here on the radio, you know, you're almost like you're working. the environment is such that you're working. So, Fazila, so after that Echo, Evington Echo, you explained that you came from Yorkshire. Of course, you didn't tell us where. You haven't got the accent, so no one knows which part of Yorkshire you've come from. So it sounds to me like you're from Leeds.
Yeah, I'm from outside of Leeds, so I'm from Dewsbury, which is a pretty little town just outside of Wakefield.
Good guess, wasn't it?
Yeah, it wasn't so bad, actually.
Very good guess. And normally you can tell a northern accent very easily. Now, it's a big comparison, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We have terms that sort of sometimes when I use them, people don't know what I'm saying, and I do flit in and out of my Yorkshire accent and this professional voice that I have, and I can do that on a whim, which is quite nice. But when I go back up north, it comes back. So you go to the local supermarket and you're at the cashier, and you'll be like, "All right, love. Yeah, I'm all right. How are you?" And it sort of just comes back like that. So I feel it's a skill.
Wow, that is very good. I'm impressed with that. You know, we can make use of that switch over abilities. It's very good, impressive. So, Fazila, you know, now you're in the law profession and you expanding your knowledge. We call it knowledge is power. And certainly a lot of young people now need that direction, that you've already got experience from where you're working now. If you can share that with us.
So do you mean legal experience?
Yeah, where you're working right now.
So there's plenty of places that people can gain legal experience, and a lot of it can be volunteering. However, now there's that added bonus that if you go down the SQE route, which is a route different to the traditional training contractor route, all your experience counts towards something, and at the end of the 2 years of full-time experience or varied part-time experiences that contribute towards that, you can take some exams. So you can work at the Citizens Advice Bureau. I'm a legal caseworker, volunteer one, at the Islamophobia Response Unit. I have my own legal education business, and I've done some work with the FRU, which is a free representation unit as well. But also when you're at university, to take part in pro bono activity would be fantastic. So the University of Leicester have an excellent pro bono society with lots of little societies as an offshoot of that. So there's plenty of opportunity. And if you Google legal experience, charity work, etc., lots of things can come up.
That is wonderful. So we did once a function there for the legal profession, and we invited and funded a lot of young students and to attend there. So when they came there, we engaged them with experienced lawyers in the city, and we found that there wasn't enough firepower in those that were living in affluent areas. But those who were living in not so affluent areas, they were absolutely on fire. So we have a call right now. I'd like to share with all of you. We have a call. Can you put it through, please? So the call's coming through to us right now, and we shall take this call. You find it very interesting, this particular initiative. All of you listening in right now, you will come to learn about something new today. Techie problems here. This is digitalization. There's always something techie happening, when you are waiting for a call and the call comes 2 minutes or 1 minute or even before or after. So to get young people on board, to give them guidance, a little bit of mentorship is the way forward. A lot of young people, they need that support.
Oh, absolutely.
So we need to pick them up at university, not wait.
Sound of Leicester.
We're on now.
AD Damon at breakfast.
BBC Radio Leicester.
A very good morning to you as well. Now, we're going to try something very, very special. We're doing something really exciting this morning. To shout about the BBC Radio Leicester Make a Difference Awards, we're linking up with Leicester's finest, Leicester-based community radio station, Ramadan FM. Zed Sheikh is the breakfast presenter. Zed, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you. You seem like you have more positive energy than I have.
Do you know, Zed, I feel like this is an honour because I'm on your show. I ain't fishing here or anything like that, but you're on my show. I feel like, we just became best friends over the airwaves.
I already feel like I went to school with you, I think. I'm sure I recognize you there.
Do you know, Zed, I think our mums know each other. I'm sure that we went to the same playgroup together.
Not possible.
I know, Zed. I mean, Zed, this is a little bit different because, Zed, you're going to interview me all about the awards.
Well, I'm very interested to know about these awards because MAD is an initiative that I have been following for a long time. And I tell everybody that we need to be mad. Yeah, we need to be mad. Now, you're going to tell us now more about MAD, aren't you?
I'm going to tell you more, Zed, about the BBC Radio Leicester Make a Difference Awards. Because, like you said, this has been going on for a little while now. We've been celebrating people, organisations, individuals across the county. And we want to celebrate all of these incredible people across Leicestershire for the amazing things that they do. Now, like you said, Zed, our Make a Difference campaign, it launched over lockdown. We're showcasing those people that are going out of their way. These people that are going the extra mile, these people that are helping out. We all saw the kindness and community spirit over lockdown, didn't we? And it was just proper Leicester. So that's what we are celebrating, Zed.
Of course, and we are stepping on the gas on that particular initiative because we've got quite a few volunteers who have been working in the sector and doing some wonderful work, and we're very proud of them.
Well, this is it, Zed. And with those people, these are the people that we want nominating, okay? Often people, like you say, do amazing things. They don't get recognised for their hard work. They do something just because they don't expect to get nominated. But no matter how big or how small, celebrating someone is just so important. And that's why we want your listeners, Zed, to go on to bbc.co.uk/make a difference and make a nomination today. Now, there are 8 different categories. So if you're thinking to yourself, where do these fall? Who am I going to nominate and where do they go? It's all right. There's 8 different categories, whether it's your neighbour that's gone above and beyond, or a carer, or perhaps someone that's done some fundraising, like Loz O'Shea. Have a listen to Loz, right? He's been running 21 half marathons in 21 days, all in aid of Cancer Research UK.
I dedicate the run to the person who's dealing with cancer or lost someone to cancer, and then I'll run to that person. So, well, the other day I started off from Nuneaton and then ran back to Leicester because I had a friend in Nuneaton whose wife had cancer. But most of the time I start off from home and run to the place where I've got to go to. Like, and I live in Gruber. I've run to Enderby, Wigston, Blaebear. It's all over Leicestershire, really, where I run to.
So people like that, Zed, that's who we're after.
Of course, quite a few come to mind already. That every year we do Radio Ramadan, and we have every weekend charities that come here and raise funds, all volunteer-based, and they're doing some wonderful work. So a lot of people coming to mind already, which we shall discuss it with our team here and put forward their names.
Brilliant. I mean, we've got some great judges as well, Zed. You know, we've got some incredible people who are judging these awards. They're just excited to hear the stories that you've got, Zed. You know, the community. We've got Paralympian Libby Clegg, Leicester City footballer Matt Piper, fundraiser Claire Lomas, British actor Jassa Aluwalia. We've also got a TV star, an ex-police officer, TV star Channel 4's Hunted, Mel Thomas. This is what he makes about it all.
So it's a real honour to be asked to be one of the judges, and it's an opportunity for anybody to nominate somebody who they feel has made a difference in their community. And we know we've had some real challenges in the last 2 years on a number of different levels. And it's just the opportunity for somebody out there who quietly just gets on with business that could be nominated for, you know, going over and above what they normally do.
Yeah, there's so many. That's the main takeaway I've had from the last couple of years doing this job, is just hearing from incredible people, normal people, but just doing brilliant things for their community. And it's so good to be able to celebrate them. As a judge, Mel, what will you be looking for?
I've been looking for a whole range of things. You know, some people don't blow their own trumpet. Some people don't go out and tell everybody what they're doing. They don't post it on social media. Just because it's not posted on social media doesn't mean it's not happening. And they're just there, and they are just quietly getting on with it and making a massive, huge difference in their community. So they're the kind of things I'll be looking for, in particular, helping children, helping the vulnerable, you know, and just being, you know, I know they're saying just being a good egg in your community.
So there we have it, Zed. That is one of the judges. He's a great bloke. He's an ex-police officer, TV star Channel 4's Hunted, Mel Thomas there.
So how are we going to, what is the procedure? How do we nominate a person?
So it's really, really easy to do. Like I say, there are 8 different categories. You can nominate whether it's an individual, a carer, a key worker, an organisation. You know, there is a category for absolutely everybody. And Zed, as you were saying then, you know, to your listeners today, the great work that is happening every weekend with the charities and what's happening, all you need to do is head over to bbc.co.uk/make a difference. So that's bbc.co.uk/make a difference. You pick a category, you nominate someone for an award. Why not go and do it now?
Of course, that is an absolute wonderful initiative. I will definitely follow that through and put forward some fantastic groups, names to you, AD, and I shall be rooting for them because they're my team.
Yeah. Yeah, and like you said, Zed, I mean, you must have someone at the kind of like, you know, the forefront of your mind, or you're thinking to yourself, yeah, they do great work. And I mean, this is so important, is it, to recognise these people?
Of course, definitely. And I think we should encourage that more and more in this community where we have, these are what we call the CDOs. Are you familiar with that, Eddie?
No, I've not heard of this. What is the CDO?
Eddie, come on, get your pen and paper ready and write this down.
I'm ready.
These are community development officers, right? And these guys are the champions of the communities, right? The work that they do is next to none. So
I love it. I love that, Zed. I heard that you liked an acronym. I've heard that you like this kind of, you know, like with various different bits and bobs. So I'm going to write that one down. Any more that you can teach me this morning?
Well, Eddie, I think you and I, after Ramadan, is going to have a good curry together.
Zed, you are on. That is going to happen. I'm looking at producer Maimouna now. We're going to make that happen. Zed, thank you so much for your time this morning. What a legend. What a treat as well to be allowed live on Ramadan FM. Zed Sheikh there, a legend breakfast presenter over at Ramadan FM. My thanks to Zed and to his listeners for listening about our Make a Difference Awards. If you would like to nominate, it is so easy to do. All you need to do is head over to bbc.co.uk/make a difference. All information is up there. You've still got 10 days to do it, so go, go, go.
Right, thank you, Eddie, for that. We're back to work now. So, Fazila, we're back to work.
We are indeed.
Did you enjoy that, Fazila?
That was really nice. Thank
So
you.
that is called corrective collaboration, with the other radio stations and the BBC. Now, that is wonderful. We can't go forward without collaborating with our community, can we?
Of course, collaborations are the root of community work.
So, great. Now, we go back at Ramadan Radio 87.7 FM. We have with us today Fazila Bhana, and we are talking about the legal profession, amongst other things that Fazila is involved with. You can already see that Fazila has done some excellent work with the Evington Echo, been a reporter there, she's been an editor there, so she has a good handle on what goes on in the community. And this is what I like to see, that Fazila, she is putting her time into doing work in the community for the community. And there's no substitute for time, is there, Fazila?
No, there isn't. There's not enough of it, but no, there's no substitute for it.
So how do you balance that with your family life?
I live by a diary and I constantly watch the clock. So I don't believe I have an hour or a minute, in fact, that is unaccounted for. But that just equates in having a very productive day where you can fit lots of things in.
So Fazila has added the OCD onto the word time. Time for you, time for me, and time for everybody else, and time for herself, and time for her family. So everything is related around time. If you don't do good time management, you are going to be in trouble. That's why I tell you every morning, Fazila, we tell our listeners, wake up, dress up, show up on time. So imagine how happy I was this morning when I turned up at 8:45, straight on the mic, on time.
Yep.
So Fazila, now I want you to tell us now about your work you're doing right now at the, where did you say, the Citizens Advice Bureau, right?
Yep, so Citizens Advice Bureau, I am a call assessor and I'm training for my legal advisor role, which will form part of my experience towards my SQE exams in 2 years' time. So I've chosen to do an LPC, and then there's 2 lots of exams that you can take, and I'm taking the second lot at the end of it, and that gives me flexibility around my organisation that I'm developing, as well as my family and other roles.
That is wonderful. So in that capacity, it's really a stepping stone, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's fantastic because it keeps you in touch with the community as well, and what's happening within the community, what legal struggles there are within the community, as well as other struggles. An example would be the increase in living costs and how people are having to deal with that. So you get a real grip on what's happening in different sectors of the communities and what their needs are.
Now, of course, right now, we're going to talk a little bit about, when you said communities, you're talking about a diverse community.
Yeah.
Right now, here, your language skills are tested, aren't they?
They are indeed.
Accents are tested. When people come to you, and how do you manage with all that? Because you've got to have a fantastic knowledge about accents and languages and cultures.
It's handy to be able to speak different languages. Of course, from having the South Indian heritage, as well as I have family in Panama, so I have a bit of a grip on a bit of Spanish. I'm able to converse with people, and I think that helps to appease people sometimes, makes them feel like they're talking to somebody that's aware of their culture, their ideals, their traditions, and it makes them more comfortable in speaking about aspects. So that's quite handy, and it does make you realise that different cultures and different communities do have different needs.
Well, of course, Fazila, we have a lot of diversities in Leicester, don't we?
We do indeed. We're very lucky. It's like a melting pot of culture and diversity.
Yesterday, a guest told me that Leicester is the most diverse city in England.
Yeah, I think that's...
I would have thought London was.
Yeah, well, that's what you probably imagine, but it seems like it's quite recognised as being a diverse city. I mean, it was a Queen's first stop when she did her tour some years ago, in recognition of that diversity. So, we are very lucky, and we are cohesive, and we work very well, and alhamdulillah, inshallah, it stays that way.
So, Fazila, I would like you to join us here to help us put the D back into the word diversity.
Okay.
Yes?
Yep.
Because we are working throughout this week on matters of inclusion, diversity, and equality.
Yeah.
Or equality.
Equality is the one that I'm going
Yeah.
to speak about today.
But, one guest told us that actually it should not be EDI, it should be IDE. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, first we have to be inclusive,
Yeah.
right? Then the equality comes,
Yeah.
and then the diversity comes. So he explained to me his version of this. And he was a parliamentarian, actually. He was not a person just from Leicester. And that was interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very interesting. I suppose they do work hand in hand. If you're inclusive and accepting of people, then you're naturally going to be diverse, and equality will just be.
Right. We got a call coming in, Fazila, for you. No? It's a false alarm. Our producer today is having some fun and giving us 2 false alarms. Now I'm going to make a count of that. So important thing is that whether it's inclusive, equality or diversity, at the end we're looking to reach the same point, aren't we?
Yep, we are all aiming to be cohesive and diverse and ensure that everybody is treated in a similar manner under the Equality Act, and that's what I'm talking about today.
So we're here listening. Tell us about it. What's the act number?
So it's the Equality Act that I'm talking about, and I'm particularly focusing on the legalities surrounding the protected characteristics of religion and belief in English law. And I think that's quite apt, considering I'm on Ramadan Radio, but also the fact, which I wasn't aware of, diversity is your theme for the week, so that's quite handy.
It's called a stroke of luck.
It is a stroke of luck. It's a stroke of good luck, actually. So yeah, that's what So I'd like to thank, of course, George for arranging for me to be here and for you to have me here on the show. But that's generally similar to the work that we do as an organisation. So we work to provide basic and comprehensive legal education for various different demographics of the community. So again, that word community just keeps coming up. And we deliver on multitude of legal topics. And one of them, of course, is the Equality Act. And that leads you to think about why we have it and where it comes from, and the word discrimination. And if I was to ask you, Zed, what definition you'd give of discrimination, what would it be?
Discrimination for me is the unbiased and the biased sector.
Okay.
That is where I would start with. And the 4 C's.
Okay.
Is there an act for that, the 4 C's?
I'm not sure, but...
There's a caste, colour, creed and culture.
Yeah, there is. And I think those are kind of covered under the protected characteristics, isn't there? Caste, colour, creed and culture. An extension of that would be religion. And there's other things that are part of that too. But they are covered by some of them. But when we go back to that discrimination, you're correct in talking about bias and perhaps more, you sort of pinpoint it to prejudicial treatment. So it's unfair or prejudicial treatment of people, groups based on protected characteristics. So it's those protected characteristics that form the core of those of the Equality Act. So can you have a guess at what they are?
Surprise me. Empower me.
All right, so you've got one which is age. So you can't be discriminated against in terms of your age unless, there's a valid reason in terms of job descriptions, etc. But that would be very hard to prove, just on a general basis. And then you have aspects related to gender reassignment, and then you come on to being pregnant or expecting to be on maternity leave. You can't be discriminated against for being married or in a civil partnership. And then you talked about creed and culture, etc. Well, you can't be discriminated against for your race, including your colour, your nationality, your ethnic or national origin. You then come to gender, so you can't be discriminated against for being male or female. You have sexual orientation, and the one that I'm most interested in for today is religion or belief. And that's both religions and non-religious beliefs. So it can be philosophical beliefs, it could be moral beliefs, etc. So those are the protected characteristics. And at the Islamophobia Response Unit, of course, we look at the protected characteristic of religion and discrimination related to that. But discrimination can come in various forms.
That is very interesting. Now, I did warn you, didn't I, that this is going to be a working session today.
Yeah. What were you going to make?
And I'm working.
Okay.
As you're telling me all these things, you're empowering me, I'm writing things down as if I
Yeah.
was at school behind a desk.
I can see that. I was
Yeah.
very, very impressed.
So I like to keep on top of these things, make notes, and then I can refer back to them, because often we have to talk about these things and we have to talk about them with conviction that we know what we're talking about and we don't quote the wrong facts. So thank you for that, Fazila.
That's
I
all
hope you won't be charging me for this free
Absolutely not.
consultancy.
Absolutely not.
Thank you for that. So all of you listening in, do call in and ask a question or even share with us an experience you had based on gender, pregnancy or color, creed, religion, beliefs, or anything that you've experienced at work. Talk about it. We have a lot of situations out there where people are hiding. They're afraid, Fazila, to talk about these things.
And it's understandable that people do feel afraid. However, there are loads of platforms now that are there to help people just make sense of things, because I think the initial, when it's all happening to somebody and it's all sort of going round in their head, I think the first step is to just speak to somebody and make sense of what's happened, and for somebody to be able to say, I understand what's happened to you. And that's a lot of what I do at the Citizens Advice and at the Islamophobia Response Unit. You need to speak to somebody and they can help you make sense of it and see, which bits are actually the ones that relate to the legality of what's happened to you, or rather the illegality of what's happened to you. But yes, it does happen, and a lot of people do experience this.
So important thing is that you must talk about it. You must report it. It depends on how serious your situation is. Sometimes you may solve it at work, but in your environment, wherever you are in the system, whether you're at judiciary, you are in the law profession, you're at the NHS, you are in the accountancy profession. There are so many professions out there, and if you come across any situation like this, or your friend has come across a situation like this, please help. Yes?
Yeah, absolutely. Help, get involved in perhaps pointing them in the direction of anybody that can help them. And there is a need to report these things. There's a platform that the Leicestershire Police have to report hate crime, which can be done on your phone. There are lots of ways that you can, and the more it's reported, the more people will be aware of it and the more it will be addressed. So that is very important.
Of course, this is across the board, across the country, and we need to create methods of prevention. Throughout the month, Fazila, all we've been focusing on is prevention.
Yeah.
Measures that prevent these incidents happening, because you've just given us a list of 5 of them, and literally to me each one of them requires one specialist to deal with.
Yeah,
they're so unique.
Yeah, they are. And I think it boils down to what you said about inclusivity. You have to educate, and that's one of the things that inspired me to start my organisation. I actually started it with a fellow grad at University of Leicester who's now in the force, and there was just this big gap in education, and when there's a gap in education and understanding, there's always going to be a hindrance with inclusivity and diversity, etc. So that's very important.
So when you're at university, every university have different societies, don't they?
Yeah.
So they start planting the seeds of separation there at university, because I was at a seminar once and there were 2 students from Hong Kong and they wanted to form their own society, the Hong Kong society with 2 people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking, you've come all the way from Hong Kong to engage in a new culture, in a new environment, and you want to still live in Hong Kong. How does that work?
I think it works 2 ways. I understand what you mean. However, if I was in a foreign country and if I knew that there were other Brits about, I mean, you get expat communities abroad as well, or British Indians about, or, people like me, I would want to get to know them, see if they can share ideas, where to eat, where not to eat. We have similar interests, similar tendencies. You might have similar religious pursuits, similar tastes in activities, etc. And it's just having that sense of community. Again, it comes down to community, and they might point out where they can meet other fellow people from Hong Kong, etc. So I don't think there's anything wrong with having different societies for different peoples and different communities at universities. I think it's a great asset of universities, actually, and it inspires people to come and study in this country, knowing that there will be some people that are of them. And I don't think it necessarily equates to them not wanting to integrate into British society, or in Leicester, into what's happening in Leicester. I was very recently at university, so I can speak with experience. I had friends from around the world that were part of their societies, but also integrated within the general university life. So it's an asset. I think it's a positive thing.
But there has to be a balance. There has to be a balance where you come here, if you're studying and you are going to engage with 50 different diversities, to engage, and the word inclusive has got to be put in capital letters. That's what we have to do, because when we are working in the community, we're working across the board with all different communities here on Ramadan Radio. And the alphabet of communities now is A to Z. And for each letter, there's a community. Right?
Yeah.
And the other day, we were stuck with the letter L. And yesterday, we had Yusra, and she came from Libya. Right? Can you imagine that?
Yeah, that's fantastic.
And Yusra, how many Libyans are living in Leicester? And of course, we don't know, do we? We do not know. So the more we learn about each other from all the different diverse communities that we have in our city, the more we'll be able to understand the shared values and build up on our commonality.
Yeah, absolutely. Understanding shared values is very important. Trying to integrate, of course, is very important. You become part of the fabric of society, and especially the society within you intend to operate. It gives you an understanding of how people behave and why they behave that way. If you intend to enter a workforce, there are particular, again, coming back to beliefs and orientation, for example, culture and ethnicity. The more you integrate, the more you understand, the more you are aware, the more successful in a sense you're going to be, because you then develop what's called people skills, and you're probably very aware of this, Ed, being in the community for so long. You're able to engage with people, understand people, and I think that's always going to be an asset and a bonus, and it's something that you can't really stress enough.
That is absolutely important. Now, we've been here in this community for 50 years, and if you're going to ask me a straight question, was it better then? Of course, I can't remember because it's a long time ago, but I could reflect upon my parents, and when they came here into this country in 1972, the essence was just to get a job and live and feed your family. That was the only essence. And if you had to suffer bias or any of these 5 points, you put up with it. You just put up and you shut up and you got on with it.
Yeah.
So we now have a different scenario, because each 10 years, different diversities have arrived into the city. Every 10 years for the last 50 years. So as a result, today what we have is, I don't think any of us truly know how to deal with 70 or 50 diversities with one formula.
Yeah, I do think there is one formula. But if you were sort of to think of one sentence, then it would be just to be accepting of people, to be understanding, and to be open to conversation and dialogue. And it's that dialogue that's really important. So if there's something that you don't know about a community, ask. Say, forgive me for being ignorant, but there's something I'd like to ask you about. And people are very open and willing to talk about their beliefs or their customs or their traditions, and they enjoy sharing them, as I do, with colleagues that perhaps don't know about my culture or my religion, or have questions about Ramadan. And you talked about the progression, and even within organizations and employment, there's so much progression. A lot of employers now make their whole organization aware that Ramadan is coming, and employees will have certain needs, etc. And again, that's being understanding and inclusive. So it's those conversations, that dialogues, that are really important.
Now, of course, we have to share that. Everything you've said, we have to share that with the wider community, because another listener told us yesterday that we have very successful as a community to have created a tribalistic environment by sectioning everybody into their own areas living in the city. So we in Leicester, say this area where we are living now, all the Muslims stay here, the Somalis stay there, and so on. So everything is divided. And that does not help us be inclusive.
It is, in a sense, you do get pockets of communities, but I suppose that happens everywhere.
Everywhere throughout the world.
Yeah.
And of course, if we are going to effect change, we really, really need all your social engineering experts at the university to come on board, engage with us, and find half a formula. We're not going to get a full formula, but we need to find half a formula, because we can't be same old, same old. We'll never see any change.
Yeah, I know people find, again, it comes back to the point that you made about the students from Hong Kong. People find comfort in being within their communities. That's just how humans operate, it seems. When people first came to this country from India, Pakistan, my parents from Africa, my dad came from Malawi, my mum was born and raised here, but it was just, that's how they operated. They came here, they knew of a family that had come from Malawi that were living in Leicester in this certain area. Let's find a house there. So that's what they did.
So I'm going to talk to you about one example, wonderful example. Throughout the month of Ramadan, we invite non-Muslims from any diversity to come and join us and do an iftar with us. And one of them, he absolutely shared the vision of one community: humanity, solidarity, and unity. He had the same values. And now he's on board with us with a lot of good ideas he has to make a difference.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. I think lots of research is needed, because I think you need to look into the psyche of people, why they behave in a certain way, why they feel that there has to be, flight, in a sense, to certain areas, or leaving certain areas, and really sort of not knowing why the man next door is wearing a thobe, or growing a beard, or, praying at a certain time. And it comes to educating people.
I would keep referring back to 50 years ago. There's a message here saying that I went to buy a prospective house in Thrussington. It's an area nearby. And I went to see the neighbors, and I asked them, I'm thinking of buying this house. Do you mind if I would move in here? And they said to me that, why would you want to move into an area where 98% of the people living here are white? That is now 50 years ago. 50 years ago, we had similar issues, and we have the same today. This is a message that is a fresh incident. That makes me cry.
Yeah, it's, again, when you talked about humanity, I think it's that aspect, and the unknown. And if there's something that they're not familiar with, people are not familiar with, people do not understand, then they're going to feel that, there is a difference between you and them. But I think that in Leicester we have this really nice opportunity and a really nice platform where we see a lot where we're just projecting that we're actually, we may be of different religions, and we may have different, beliefs, etc., and colour of skin, etc., but we all, we have humanity in common. We raise money for people who are in need. We have food banks that provide food for anybody and everybody, not just, people of our own culture and religion.
It's all to do with reaching out to these communities, reaching out to them, and then do good actions, right? So often, if I was to define you, I would not define you from your what people have said about you. I would define you from your good actions, what you have done.
Yeah.
And that is you. So somebody says, who are you? I would say, well, this person is doing all this good work. That's who they are.
Yeah.
And if we go out and reach out when we do the food banks, the Muslim community has reached out to non-Muslims across the city, even into the county, to go and give them food. And they've seen past caste, color, creed. And do we have to wait for a calamity before we express our humanity, or do we start to make that as part of our lives with our children? They grow up from the age of 3 years old, living like that, and they don't know nothing else. They only know humanity. So if we are to say, what's the one formula? That formula would have to start at the age of 3.
Yeah, I think of course, everything starts from home, doesn't it? Religion isn't something that's taught in schools, and in the same way, humanity isn't something that's taught in schools. If you follow a religion, that comes from home. If you follow certain ideals, it comes from home. And in the same way, being charitable, being humane comes from home. Your kids will see what you do, and inevitably my children will look at how I behave, what I'm involved in, what's important to me. And it's prioritizing things and being aware that it is, you're doing things, but you're also responsible for the next generation doing those things and carrying them on as well.
And that is so important. All of you listening in right now, thank you for one or two messages that have come in, and it's absolutely important. We haven't finished all our topics, so I'm going to ask our producer to run on, and he's going to run on. Yes? And he's going to give me those hand signals that you see at the airport to say yes. And I can see them, but Fazila, you've got your back turned to him, but all is good. He's communicating. And sometimes we have a producer, I can't see them because they are lower than the screens. And you look over there and you say nobody's there, and you start panicking that, I'm left alone. Because they're very little. We need higher chairs over there. So, Fazila, we have we've touched the nerve, haven't we, really?
It's a sensitive topic.
Very sensitive. In fact, it's so sensitive that some of the guests didn't want to talk about it, Fazila.
Which aspect do you think is what do you think in particular, Zed, is the most sensitive issue?
Fazila, are you ready for it?
Go on.
I'm going to hit you with it.
I don't mind.
Right? The way it goes here, it's what we call here, it's a HISR.
You have too many acronyms.
No, this is not an acronym. This is written in some good books.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to read up and you'll see the HISR. HISR is historic, institutional, systemic racism.
Okay.
Now, it's the big R that nobody talks about. People are afraid, Fazila, of the big R.
Yeah.
Right? And the big R is everywhere. It has been, and progressively, I want to ask you a question. Has it gotten better in the last 10 years, or has it gotten worse?
What I can say is conversations around it have gotten better.
Yes.
There is more awareness of it. There's more reporting of it. There's more action around it. I mean, we saw that with the Black Lives Matter movement, how it filtered around the world. So the conversations have increased, dialogues have increased, people are more aware of it, just like they are of other movements such as the Me Too movement and things like that. In terms of whether it's gotten better for those who have experienced it, I can only speak from personal experience and the roles that I am in. And racism is a general sort of term in the sense that it covers a lot of things, and what I look at is religious beliefs. So I can't speak in terms of what people enjoy, but we can look at what's reported, what happened in, for example, Child Q in London being strip searched. That was horrendous. So that unfortunately still it happened in today's society, in today's world, and that was just horrific. But I'm not sure, Zed, whether I can really comment on whether things have particularly changed. All I know is that there's more awareness.
So now you have seen that we've added the meaning into the word historic and institutional.
Mm-hmm.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And then all of that becomes systemic.
Yeah.
Right? So this is what HISR is all about. So when you look at the root causes, you have to see, well, first comes the H and then comes the I. So you have to deal with each one on that basis.
Yeah.
So if you want to cure the R, you have to go back to the H.
Yeah.
Right? It's a little bit of a formula.
Well, it is a chronology, isn't it?
Of course it is.
So you have to tackle the historic and, again, making people aware of the historic before you can move on.
And all of us, every one of us has had a problem across our lives, all of us. And we've seen that one message has come in to say that I was at school and I was regularly bullied there, and I didn't do anything about it. I could handle myself, but I wasn't the type that was going to hit back.
Yeah.
And he's written a story here. He says, I was working in a hospital, and the same guy who used to bully me came to the hospital, and he was terminally ill with cancer. Right? And somebody said to him that you can get your own back on him now. And he said, no, that was in the past. I have to pray for him that he recovers. I have no animosity against him now. Isn't that a sign of humanity?
It is absolutely, and it's amazing.
So that is an example there. What we have to teach our children is that when matters start at school, then we have to deal with them there and then. Otherwise, you could carry. This is a unique example, but further down the line, we don't know how many thousands and millions of examples there are, Fazila, of many experiences. So I regularly listen to stories, and I'm sort of become hardened to them because I've listened to so many stories and I've experienced so many people who have come forward. I was working in the field of racism for a period of 2 years in sports, and it was quite horrendous what you felt that sports is supposed to bring people together.
Yeah.
Right? We go there in sports and we spell the word diversity with excellence, but it wasn't the case.
Yeah.
So
Sports,
that is
yeah.
just in sports, right? But across the board, we have to bring awareness, Fazila. We need to talk about these things and not hide under the carpet, and we have to do them collectively. It's not that we do these discussions just with Black Lives Matter. We have to put all lives on the table. It's a mission, it's a journey for all of us, that we have to create a better tomorrow for our children and an even better tomorrow for our grandchildren.
Absolutely, and it's equipping them with that strength and knowledge to be able to do that, and that's the important thing. And the gentleman went through that, and at the time, and as you talked about, when people were fresh to this country, and my dad had experienced that when he came to this country in the 70s, I experienced it in the 80s and 90s when I was in school, and people were very flippant with the P word. So anybody of colour were called the B word, and you just thought, right, there's nothing I could. I'm sort of a minority within this establishment, and I just have to accept it. Now it's not like that. There will be more, hopefully, done to stop that happening, and people are more aware that that's absolutely wrong. And I think that's the key difference.
So again, AD mentioned earlier on, making a difference, and this is an area which is so important, that we all make a difference collectively as one diverse community. I don't think that there's one person that deserves an award. There's a collective number of persons that deserve awards, who are working so hard that when you do fundraising, you raise that money, and that money goes back into the community to develop communities. And it's so important. And even what we are talking about now, diversity, inclusion, equality, racism, all these are matters that have to be tackled head on with a group, many groups of people collectively.
Yeah, there are some very good initiatives in Leicester. So you have your interfaith networks that George is a part of, and I've attended as editor of the Everton Echo, but also with the FMO. And the FMO do excellent work to maintain interfaith relations in Leicester. Leicestershire Police are also involved with these things. Other organisations, people from other religions, from other places of worship are involved. And that's brilliant. However, I also understand that people are not always aligned with a religion.
Of course, you see, when you say interfaith, they are exactly what it says, interfaith. And your next point was very, very critical, that how many people are aligned with religion. You break that down, the element out of 100%, the figure is shocking.
Yeah.
That the actual attendances or participants, so we went on to say caste, color, creed, culture, and then we went on to tradition, we went on to religion, right? And then after that, there's two more. You aware of them?
You can tell me.
Nationalism and patriotism.
Okay.
Right? So all of these things that are the feeding grounds of separatism.
Yeah.
Right? And we miss one out, but tribalism, but that maybe it might fall into sect and have a similar meaning. And so much work we need to do collectively to understand that line, that pipeline of destruction. So when we are working, we need more than just the interfaith groups. We need to go change mindsets. And to change mindsets, how am I going to change the mindset of somebody 40, 45, 50, 60 onwards? How do you do that? It's next to impossible.
It's not impossible. It comes down to sharing your humanity, showing them that we are all the same. We all bleed red, apart from people that bleed blue, and we all, have the same biological makeup. We all have the same basic human needs. We have the same mental health issues as anybody of any other culture, religion, creed, whatever C's and other letters that you have said. We are generically the same, and it reminds me of, and I quote the deceased Labour MP Jo Cox, and she was the head girl at the school that I was at when I was in Yorkshire, and she talked about how what we have in common, and we do have so much in common, and I think it comes down to that, and it's not, as I said, not, and as you quite aptly pointed out, we're not aligned with not all aligned with religions, and we can't all put ourselves into that category or that box, but we can all put ourselves into the humanity box.
Of course we can, and that's where I'm coming to. That is all throughout the month I've been talking about humanity, the solidarity, and the unity. So we need to work collectively together as one community, and if we work together as all separate communities and we stay in our boxes, we will not go forward. Each religion itself has separatism within that religion.
Yeah.
So you will see that every single religion has different parts of that religion. Some people are left and some people are right and so on. So that is something that creates division more so than bringing people together on one table. So this is a very, very complex, deep subject.
Yeah,
and it's one that people don't understand very well. So we're going to move on now to another subject, because some of our listeners, you've got to call in. If you've had any experiences, call in. Don't be shy. Call in on 0116 482 2086, or you can call in on or you can WhatsApp on 077 48 855 055. I call these numbers out 10 times a day, and if you ask me tomorrow morning, what's the number? What do you think my answer is?
I cannot answer that.
Why, Fazila? Because I'm a creature of habit. I'm used to looking at that and telling you the number, right? So we are all of us listening in right now, we are all human beings. We are creatures of habit. We do things in a habitual manner, and that's why it's difficult to change our mindsets, right? So we need to I hope you all understood that really well. I use myself as an example all the time, right? I said, look in the mirror, and there lies the answer. So I make mistakes. Everybody is going to make mistakes. We're all human. So Fazila, I'm quite enjoying a program with you, Fazila.
Thank you. I'm enjoying being on your program.
Yeah, I was doing some work while I was working with you. So it's a working program,
It is, yeah.
It's a working program.
Multifaceted.
So when I say to people that I'm going to work, they say, no, you're going to radio. You're a radio presenter. I said, no, I work there. I sit there and I do work. So we're going to move on to your work that you've done with the charities.
Yeah.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us about that, because there is so many charities in Leicester doing some wonderful work.
Yeah, so one of the things that we did do is work with charities that work with victims of domestic abuse. And that was very important. And again, the whole word of education keeps coming into it, because it's educating victims of domestic abuse of the law related to that area. Now we have a definition in statute, which we were waiting for a long time. So that wasn't around when I was doing my pro bono work with these charities whilst I was doing my graduate degree. We will have it now. And again, it comes down to, and I think that it all boils down to that awareness, integration perhaps as well. And I do recognise that a lot of these people are not in a position to go out and look for information, and that is the core of a lot of their experiences. However, to be able to go out and work with these people, work with these women's centres, work with these charities to say, this is what domestic abuse is, this is your legal position, these are your rights, these are what you can do. You can go and get a non-mol. You can apply for an occupation order. It doesn't always have to cost. There are people that will help you do that. I used to sit at the court, at the county court, at the Crown Court, and at a desk that was manned by the University of Leicester. I sat at that throughout the summer holiday, just filling out forms with these people, and you'd tell them things and they'd say, oh, we didn't know that was possible, we didn't know that was wrong, etc. So again, working with these charities has been fantastic. Other charities that we've worked with are like radio stations to inform them of defamation laws. So what you shouldn't and should say on the radio, what you can't say, what you absolutely should not mention.
Am I good for that?
So far, it seems to be all above board. You haven't done anything quite controversial yet.
No, I feel good about that.
So yeah, that's one of the things. And again, they're all charities, aren't they? They're not sort of profiteering radio stations. They work in the community. So that's another thing that we do. I've worked with schools where I teach children of all ages, actually, what basic human rights are, what the articles of human rights are. I know things that might possibly change with the new government integrating things into our own statute, etc. But the fundamental things are always there. So your right to privacy, your right to family life, your right to practice your religion, etc. And again, that comes back to the Equality Act. So yeah, that's a kind of work that we do. I've been into organisations where we've talked to people about the fundamentals of writing a will. So I'm not drumming up, I'm not a solicitor, so I'm not drumming up business, I'm just making them aware of the importance of having a will and how that would make things easier.
Islamically, it's incumbent upon you to have a will, isn't it?
Absolutely,
right?
From a very early age.
Yeah. So when we are talking about Fazila in a legal profession, we've gone from A to Z really across the board. We haven't touched everything, but we've touched a few nerves, haven't we?
Yeah.
To do with the legal profession. And of course, we do have a show here called The Legal Show. And again, there are A to Z facets in legals, and even they cannot cover all of them.
No, it's impossible.
In the month of Ramadan. And earlier on, I asked you, well, which sector will you pursue? And you mentioned to me, well, you're thinking whether you go to employment or you go to family, and that's just 2 sectors, aren't there?
Yeah.
And there are so many.
Yeah, there are absolutely loads. I mean,
you're lost for choice.
Yeah, sometimes you have this natural inclination towards something, and I am very naturally inclined towards family law. And one of my sort of role models is a lady called Glynis Wright, who I read about in Niche magazine, and I was in hospital at the time, and I sat on my hospital bed and I had this magazine, and I thought, oh my gosh, she studied law at a later age. She was a family lawyer, and that's something I was always interested in. And her best friend was on the hospital bed next to me, and I had a conversation with her, and it's after that conversation that I applied to study law. It sort of gave me that confidence to go ahead and do it. And at that time, then, it was family law that I was interested in. But having studied employment law, working at the Citizens Advice and Islamophobia Response Unit, I'm now being pulled towards employment law. I find it incredibly interesting. So yeah, it is. There's lots of things. No doubt I might do something else, like a person I know called Zainab. I think she does legal shows on a radio station. And she does civil litigation, which, again, encompasses employment law. And when I speak to her, it sounds very interesting. So there's lots of options. And doing something general, like being at a place like Citizens Advice, you get to explore everything, which is just fantastic.
Of course, all of you listening in, there are so many inspirational models for you to follow. So if you are considering law profession, then you do have to get in touch with all these. And if you don't know, then you call us here at the radio station, ask for me, and I can give you some direction and give you some signposting. And we would like to support everyone in every profession to excel in their future aspirations. And supporting each other and being inspired with another is the way forward. Fazila, like you were inspired with the girl next to you at the hospital.
Yeah, absolutely. And I suppose there's just that moment. People might be dubious about it and quite skeptical, but for me, there was a moment where I sort of thought, right, I'm doing this. And you just do it. And if people are interested in pursuing the law, there's something really great called Pathways to Law, which is for secondary school students. And again, the University of Leicester have a dedicated team that go into schools and talk about pathways to law. And it's fantastic. There's many different ways that it can be pursued. And it's, there's an initiative called Social Mobility, where they in particular want people from disadvantaged backgrounds to enter these kind of professions that were formerly thought of as being prestigious, perhaps not open to them. For example, law was always thought to be pursued by a typical kind of candidate. When I was at the University of Leicester, I invited local schools from disadvantaged areas to come and see the university and the law school, so that they could see that it was open to everybody, and there was people from all backgrounds, all colours and creeds, etc., at the university pursuing law.
Of course, when you say disadvantaged backgrounds, I mentioned to you earlier, didn't I, that when I did a function and we invited students and paid for the funding for that, and interesting what I'm going to tell you now is we charged them, I think it was 48 pence to attend, and the price on the table was £20. So because they're students, we subsidized them to 48 pence.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Now, this is an interesting one. All the rich kids, they didn't have the 48 pence in their pocket, right? So my dad's going to pick me up, I'll get it for him and pay you. And the kids who were disadvantaged, because we talked to all of them, they had the 48 pence in their pocket. Now, is that a story or not?
That's really interesting.
Now, there's a psychology here for you, that these kids have never forgotten the 48 pence, right? The idea was, I was not going to get rich by 48 pence, but I wanted them to remember that nothing is for free, right? That when everybody else is paying, I think, 20, 25 pounds per head to attend, and each table had 2 lawyers sat with them to guide them, to talk to them, and help them in their future aspirations, lawyers from across the board. So every lawyer is happy to lend a hand.
Yeah, they are. There's a very generous legal community in Leicester. There's lots of lawyers that mentor people. I had lawyers that offered me work experience at events that just sort of, but it's also very important to talk. And I think it seems like such a silly thing to say, but we have a generation that hides behind their devices and social media, etc. And the power of networking has to be projected. Whilst I was at university, I just went to Law Society events. I bought the tickets and went along and just talked and introduced myself.
In the South Asian community, there's a lot of, with parents, a lot of DLA going on, isn't there? Everybody wants their kid to be a doctor, lawyer, accountant.
I think I'm a parent and I've got a teenage daughter. I would like it if she pursued those, but it's not the only ones. I think, again, perceptions of, what a career can be are changing.
I think that's the thought of old, but now with all this digitization happening across the globe, everybody's like changing their mindsets. They want to embrace this new digital, exciting technology, and things are changing rapidly.
It's really important. It's really important, again, to be aware of what's going on. I have a nephew who's studying cybersecurity, and I was so impressed by all the things he was telling me. You've got your producer, that's the aerospace person. That's great. We need people in different fields. We can't just be stuck in the, what did you say, DLAs of the world.
That's right.
But then it's also very important to have equal representation in all those professions too.
Yeah, of course. So if you're all listening in right now, take attention to all that, what we're talking about, that every child has to develop to his strengths. And sometimes your dream and your aspiration is not going to be the same as your child, because he'll have grown up with different ideologies and different mindsets and different strengths. So work always to the strengths of a person, not to the weaknesses. If you sort the strengths out first, the weaknesses get sorted out themselves by that person. So all of you listening in, every parent, guide your children, signpost them, and ask for help to get a mentor for them, and let them excel. That is what the Talent Foundation is all about.
Absolutely. And we have quite a talent pool in Leicester as well. So that's
in every
thing.
profession.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you were to pool that talent and offer mentorship through that pool, I think that we would be much better off.
Yeah, we do that in the business sector. And if we could transfer that across the board, I think we'd be much better for it. But everything that we do is all volunteer-led. And volunteer-led organizations or systems are not sustainable because the volunteers move on. So we have to rethink that model as well to see how we can inject some cash, some money, make a career for someone and let them drive the car forward to achieve all these objectives. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult going forward.
Absolutely.
Sustainability is key.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to move on now to the work about schools. I want to discuss with you that you have been involved with.
Okay. So when I was at the Pro Bono Society at the University of Leicester, I was working as a team leader on a project called the Street Law Project. And that's essentially the inspiration for my business now. So we went into schools. One of the things that we did, we went into schools and we talked about things like human rights, consent within, relationships and things like that. We talked about protected characteristics. I talked about what it was like to be in a courtroom, what people did in a courtroom, who the judge was, what his job was. So we did things that called mock trials, and that's something that I did at Crown Hills last summer. So I was part of their summer school there, and I taught them about human rights. I taught them about sentencing guidelines and how those work. And I did that by having a mock trial and putting Goldilocks on trial. So you adapt the law according to the projection and the teaching of the law. You can't adapt the law, but according to the teaching of it, according to your audience and who you're teaching that to. So with a human rights lesson that I used to deliver to primary school students, it has to be fun. So we had an alien come into the planet that took away all our human rights, and they had to choose then which ones the aliens say you can keep 4. So they look through all the human rights and they choose 4, and then they dwindle it down to 2 and then 1. So there are different ways to teach in this, but it showed me that there was such a need. We've gone into other organisations and taught children about managing money and how they can end up getting into debt. And I think that's really important for children to know about, especially teenagers who are then going to enter the university/working profession. What bills are, what's a mortgage? Legally, what's a mortgage? Legally, what's a contract? When you buy a car, how do you get tied into a contract? Things like that are very important.
I must admit, none of that was ever highlighted to me when I was in school in 1924. Never had a clue about
You're
these
fishing
things.
for compliments.
Never had a clue about this. Yeah. So all of you listening in, the importance of reality, the reality of the world is what comes ahead to educate our children with all the bills. And my personal advice is that get them involved at home with the gas bill, electric bill, all your utilities. Let them check it. Let them start making a spreadsheet. And, nowadays they're proficient with Excel. And give them that task. Say, that's your job. That's your pocket money.
Absolutely.
Right? Learning and earning. That's what it's all about, guys.
Yeah, my 11-year-old has started her own little business, and her dad is very keen on Excel sheets, and that's how he manages our home. And he's encouraging her to use Excel sheets.
Well, her dad is better. He becomes my best friend, because Excel is the way forward.
Yeah,
to
well,
teach
that's
our
what
children.
I'm told.
We could get him to be an Excel teacher, couldn't we? In one of our initiatives.
Well, yeah. Well, there you go. Sustainability will have to be handled, but yes. When it comes to Excel, that's how he.
And we need these sessions where we get parents and children together, and we have a working breakfast together, all of us.
That would be fantastic.
How's that, Fazila? Can you take the lead on that?
I've just been, offered a job here, it seems. That I'll have to think about, thank you.
A job here at the radio?
No, by you to lead initiative. A breakfast. I don't know how good I'd be at that.
No, you don't need to make the breakfast. We have somebody to make the breakfast.
Well, that's fine.
We just get people together, meet and greet, and share values.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
We can bring them from across the board, and we bring the children along as well, so they're involved in the process of development, right?
That would be fantastic.
So, Fazila, we're going to move on. The fantastic work you're doing in the schools, I'm up for that, because that's something that's very dear to my heart. I started my community career at a school and doing similar work to what you are doing. So we have shared values already.
That's brilliant.
So we're going to move on to businesses, because we have 9 minutes only, right? So your work you've done with businesses.
So the businesses ones would be a lot to do with the Equality Act. So what people are entitled to, how to be aware of what, so for example, the Ramadan aspect, how to be aware of what employees are going through, even supporting victims of domestic abuse, how you support them within an employment setting, how you support people that might be pregnant, people that are coming back from maternity leave, people's rights when they return from leave, whether it be sick leave or maternity leave or whatever, in requesting part-time employment. what their rights are in doing that. And I know a lot of organisations will have HR in place to be able to deal with that, but small businesses don't, and not everybody is aware of those aspects. So those are the kind of things that we do. We will look at safeguarding with some. I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago that we went to business and talked about safeguarding and how that works. So there is a big need. I mean, it's quite a niche in a sense. However, people will contact people. We'll have people contact us and say things like, "We're not sure about this aspect of the law, but we'd like our employees to be educated. Can you come in and do a bit of a presentation?" And we'll do that. So that's what we've done for businesses and organisations.
And do you charge for that, or is it free?
So it was all free. So we did it all through pro bono work. We were students. We went in. It was a pandemic. We did it over webinars, etc. And at the time, our organisation was a partnership. So we'd registered as a partnership. So it was myself and my friend, who then entered the force. So she's a police officer now, and things changed.
In Leicester or somewhere else?
In Leicestershire. So
okay. We need to engage with her as well.
Oh yes, I think they have an engagement team at Leicestershire Police anyway. So I'm not sure if it'd be necessarily her. So now I'm going solo, but this is giving me so my business has evolved. So it's now not so much face to face; it's a package kind of business where you buy a package. At the moment, I'm thinking about the business side of things. It's handy that I've done business law, so I know what to do. I've been recruiting students to work for me. So I spoke to some students at De Montfort University who are fantastic. Such dedicated students with excellent networking skills. I'm in touch with my lecturers at the University of Leicester, so I shall be contacting them. It's something that I've left for after I finish my exams because I have so many things going on. But it's brilliant because it teaches you how businesses don't have to stop, they just evolve. And tech is helping us do that.
So all of you listening in right now, I'm so happy today to share with you a dynamic individual in the community, and she's doing excellent work, Fazila Bhana, right? So write that name down like I've written down, and all of you have to lead by an example of Fazila, the kind of work she's been doing across the community, and she has just started her journey of life. And these are the kind of people that inspire me and keep me going. So Fazila, that is a massive plug to all the work you've been doing.
Yeah.
Right. In fact, I'm thinking of nominating you as well, Fazila, for the work you've done in the community.
Oh, I don't know. I think there are people that deserve that nomination far more than me.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So that is wonderful. So all the businesses that when you are going to them and you are doing this pro bono, I got to tell you, Fazila, you got to start charging them 99 pence.
And then is somebody going to subsidize the rest?
Because this free thing don't stack up with me,
Yeah, as I said, it's a developing thing. Through the pandemic, I was shielding, so I was deemed clinically vulnerable, and it just suited me working around, homeschooling family, my other educational commitments, my commitments to the other part-time roles that I had, to do this pro bono. And of course at university I was doing it pro bono. But, it's evolving, and I'm making business plans, and my husband's a project manager, and he's helping me with this. I've done my business law, so I know that side of things. And we will see. All I can say is watch this space, really.
So quite a few interesting developments.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. Yeah, I've got a plan.
Sounds very exciting.
It is. I'm excited about it.
Do keep me posted. I'm interested. I like these progressive journeys of lives, of yourself, your husband, your children, and everything. Like I was saying, in the morning, you wake up in the morning and you're grumpy and you're out of shape, out of form. You come down to the breakfast table, and the whole family will be like that.
Yeah. You come, but we have a different outlook at home. We look at the positives. And we plan, and that's how I manage to do everything. And we live by a diary, and my daughters live by a diary, and I ensure that we all have a family planner, and that's how you manage to juggle so many things and do what you want to do. So I play tennis, so I managed to get that in a few times a week. Obviously not in Ramadan, I'd be just gone. And I've got other pursuits, other sort of fitness pursuits, and I managed to get those in. We do things together as a family. We have our individual pursuits, and that's really important as well. And your individual interests, and all those things combined form this aura of positivity, and it's all centered around just being organized and pursuing things.
That is absolutely wonderful, because Fazila is strictly not planning to fail, right? Because if you don't make a good time management and many other aspects, then you are certainly going to plan to fail with your career path, with your journey of life, with whatever you have to do. And we have to all work together to be inspired by each other. And certainly Fazila has inspired me, I'm pleased to say. So I think definitely I would like you to give us some good input here at the radio, get involved with us in some capacity, and the community development initiatives that we are putting in place, to be part of them. I'm sure you can lend some very good support to us.
I would love to. Thank you.
We're happy to pay you 99 pence.
Yeah, I'll take that. Joking.
That's right. And this is what we all have to do in the community, is work together as a team and make things happen. Things ain't going to happen. We have to make that difference. We have to be mad and make a difference. Like AD said from BBC Radio Leicester, making a difference. And it's something we've been doing here in the radio, and just going to give you a quick reminder about the justgiving.com fundraising Ramadan radio for the Children's Hospital. We are raising funds there. If you want to contribute to buy Eid gifts for the children in the wards, then please do so on justgiving.com/fundraising/Ramadan-radio. If you go on there, you'll be able to donate. Even you donate 20p is going to be well appreciated, right? So we want to then, hospital is one of our partners that we work with, yeah? And we have to go. So, right, we have meetings to go to, right? So, Fazila, thank you very much today for attending. And we have to go back to our real jobs, don't we?
Absolutely. I have a meeting scheduled for 11
so
o'clock.
thank you for coming today, Fazila.
Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed myself.
And we should look forward to touching base with you again.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fazila. So, guys, thank you, Fazila. We shall touch base with you again. So, guys, you were listening to Ramadan Radio, 87.7 FM, and I look forward to talking to you very soon. In the evening today, we have a wonderful program between 6 and 7, and we shall continuing with the theme of EDI. We have a councillor, Pyara Singh. He's also a assistant mayor, and we'll have Yaqub Ismail, who's the inspector for Leicester East. And we shall be talking to them, asking them questions, and do call in and talk to them also and share your experiences with them. If you don't connect, then we're not going to progress forward. So I'm going to remind you again, the telephone number, write it down so I don't have to keep telling you, 0116-482-2086. Put it in your phone, and or the WhatsApp, 077-488-55055 today. So in between all the iftars,